Hi everyone, it's Jordan again, and our devotion today comes from a very good pastor friend of mine. He had this printed out on the back of one of his church bulletins. It is a very, very pretty story called Take My Son. A wealthy man and his son loved to collect rare works of art. They had everything in their collection, from Picasso to Raphael. They would often sit together and admire the great works of art. When the Vietnam conflict broke out, the son went to war. He was very courageous and died in battle while rescuing another soldier. The father was notified and grieved deeply for his son. About a month later, just before Christmas, there was a knock at the door. A young man stood at the door with a large package in his hands. He said, "Sir, you don't know me, but I am the soldier for whom your son gave his life. He saved many lives that day, and he was carrying me to safety when a bullet struck him in the heart and he died instantly. He often talked about you and your love for art." The young man held out this package. "I know this isn't much. I'm not a really great artist, but I think your son would want you to have this." The father opened the package. It was a portrait of his son, painted by the young man. He stared in awe at the way the soldier had captured the personality of his son in the painting. The father was so drawn to the eyes that his own eyes welled up with tears. He thanked the young man and offered to pay him for the picture. "Oh no, sir, I could never repay what your son did for me. It's a gift." The father hung the portrait over his mantel. Every time visitors came to his home, he took them to see the portrait of his son before he showed them any of the other great works he had collected. The man died a few months later. There was to be a great auction of his paintings. Many influential people gathered, excited over seeing the great paintings and having an opportunity to purchase one for their collection. On the platform sat the painting of the sun. The auctioneer pounded his gavel. "We will start the bidding with this picture of the sun. Who will bid for this picture?" There was silence. Then a voice in the back of the room shouted, "We want to see the famous paintings. Skip this one." But the auctioneer persisted. "Will somebody bid for this painting? Who will start the bidding? $100? $200? Another voice angrily shouted, "We didn't come to see this painting. We came to see the Van Goghs, the Rembrandts. Get on with the real bids." But the auctioneer continued, "The sun, the sun. Who will take the sun?" Finally, a voice came from the very back of the room. It was the longtime gardener of the man and his son. "I'll give $10 for the painting." Being a poor man, it was all he could afford. "We have $10. Who will bid 20? "Give it to him for 10. Let's see the masters." The crowd was becoming angry. They didn't want the picture of this son. They wanted the more worthy investments. The auctioneer pounded the gavel. "Going once, going twice, sold for $10. A man sitting on the second row shouted, "Let's get on with the collection." The auctioneer laid down his gavel. "I'm sorry, the auction is over." "What about the paintings?" they asked. "I am sorry. When I was called to conduct this auction, I was told of a secret stipulation in the will. I was not allowed to reveal that until this time. Only the painting of the sun will be auctioned. Whoever bought that painting would inherit the entire estate, including the paintings. The man who took the sun gets everything." God gave his son over 2,000 years ago to die on the cross. Much like the auctioneer, his message today is the sun, who will take the sun? Because you see, whoever gets the sun gets everything. The sun, who will take the sun? That is what God asks of each of us, of all of us. Who will take his son? Who will accept his son? Who will be willing to sacrifice for his son? He doesn't force us to. He simply keeps asking us to. The sad part, though, is that so many of us are too focused on and too caught up by the things that we think are more valuable that we pass right by. We don't realize that the one who gets the sun gets everything. As Christians, we know that accepting the Son, taking the Son, gives us far more than just paintings, or far more than just an estate or works of art that might be valuable. We get everything. We get an eternity. We have an inheritance too. We get an eternity in heaven with God and with the Son. So that's the question. Will you choose the Son? over everything else. That's not going to be easy, because the other things, the world makes the other things seem just so big, so important, so much more valuable, so much more worth your time, your effort, your sacrifices. It's so easy to just pass right by the sun to the things that the world puts as valuable. But guess what? As Christians, we know the person who gets the sun gets everything. Things that are way more valuable than anything else that we could choose to follow, anything else that we could choose to take. God is asking us, each of us, that question. He asks us that not just once. He asks us that all the time. Whenever we're faced with a choice where one route is taking the sun, taking the godly way, following God, and the other is not. The other is taking the world. The other is taking things that look good and look promising from down here on earth. God is saying, please, choose the sun. Take the sun over all of that other stuff. So I leave you with that question. Think about that today as you're going through. Who will take the sun? The sun, the sun. Who will take the sun? Because the person who chooses to take the sun, to accept Jesus, to sacrifice for Jesus, really gets everything. God is good all the time. I love you guys.